So I get to introduce our speaker today for our Taking Steps to Conquer Digital Media talk. Kevin Adelsberger has been around the co for years. We always joke that he was like one of our initial co-members. He is the founder of Adelsberger Marketing, and they make creative work that grows their clients' businesses and culture that values their team and the community of Jackson, Tennessee. So Kevin is a co-founder of Our Jackson Home. He serves on the board of the Madison County CASA and the Co. And in 2019, his marketing firm became part of the Alexander Thompson and Arnold family of firms. So that is Kevin's bio. We all know and love Kevin. We're so glad to have him here today, and I'm going to let him take over.
Thanks, Lisa. I'm going to share my screen now and make sure that that all works. And I'm not muted or anything and all those normal Zoom things. Thank you all for making time for this today. I'm very excited to get an opportunity to talk with you. One of the things I promised I was going to do is give away some books. And so I want to kind of do that as we go. And I think, Katie, do you have the first name?
Yes, I do. It is Charles Boyd.
Charles Boyd. So, and you can pick that up at the Co. I'm not going to be shipping these free books because then it costs me more money, but it'll be at the Co for you to pick up. So, all right. So today we are going to be talking about conquering digital marketing. Now, this is kind of based out of a checklist we have available free on our website. And the goal is to better equip you to do better online for your business, for the business that you work at, the business that you own, whatever that may be. And also selfishly, it may prompt you to go to our website and download our guide. Or you can actually read the book for free on our website as we release section by section. So we're trying to give a lot of value there. That you're going to get value here, and then you might be able to get some more on our website. But let's start with some really essential principles when we think about digital marketing. Number one, who are you? When you think about digital marketing, you need to understand who you are first. And that's really with marketing in general. And so when I say, who are you, what do I mean? Like, what is your brand's personality? Are you fun? Are you serious? Are you emotional? What is it that is who you are? And then what platforms are you active on? So do you have, like a recent customer of ours, an inactive Twitter account from 2017? You should just go ahead and delete it. Just admit that you haven't touched it in 4 years and you should go ahead and delete it. But if you're active on Facebook and Instagram, make sure that you're investing in the ones that you're active on. If you have a website, make sure that that is up to date. Know where you are. And for some of you, depending on your organization, you might not currently know all the places that you're active on. And so that should be something that your marketing team or you as the owner or you as the marketing manager should have a list of somewhere. We recommend that for some of our larger customers, we recommend them to keep a spreadsheet of every place online that they have an account. So maybe that's your Google My Business and your Yelp account and your chamber membership, so that you can make sure if you have a website change or an hour change or a name change, you can know where all those places are very quickly. So know where you are, and then ask yourself, why do people care? What makes you special? What advantages are you bringing to the table? And so these are things that'll help you think through the content to generate for these other platforms. But what makes you special? And sometimes that's hard to define. And you need to be honest with yourself when you think about what makes you special and what gives you an advantage you bring to the table. But additionally, the second most important thing is, after you think about who you are, you need to think about who your customers are. And when I say who your customers are, obviously you're going to know the names of some of your customers, at least I hope you will. But in general, what are the demographics? What are the general types of customers that you are looking at to talk to? And why do they care about you? And so right now would be a great idea to think, just generally write out a few general groups of potential customers that you might want to work with. And so for me, that list is fairly short, actually. I talk to small business owners is one of my primary audiences I talk to. I talk to medium-sized businesses, marketing departments. And so sometimes we're an asset for, like, Alexander Thompson Arnold, which is who we're a partner with. They have a marketing department, and they bring us in to help them execute on projects. Smaller businesses, we come in and we are their marketing department. And then even sometimes very large businesses, Fortune 500 types businesses, their local office might need a video asset or a graphic design project, and we can help them that way. And so those are my three main customer personas that I want to talk to. Yours are likely, unless we're in direct competition with each other, going to be very different. And if we're in direct competition with each other, if you could go ahead and log out now, I would appreciate it. And so can you list out three general customer types that you have that you want to talk to? Here's an example. So we recently did a project with World Changers, and some of you may have heard of World Changers. It used to be a Southern Baptist Convention missions project that was like a week-long mission trip for high school students to go on, and they do construction and put people's roofs on. It was a great thing. It was a big part of my childhood, and they've gone through some organizational struggles, and they have been purchased by a group of people who want to see it thrive. And so we invited them to come to a strategy session, and we looked through who their customers are. And their customer base is very different than everybody else that we've ever worked with, because they're dealing with some very specific people. So here are two of the customer personas that we developed with World Changers. As we help them think through their marketing, we want to think what is important to Vicky Volunteer and what is important to Steve's small group. And there was another group too, but these will give you a great example. So when we think about a customer persona, when we think about this Vicky Volunteer, this was their biggest customer base, is people like Vicky. So Vicky is a volunteer youth leader at her church. She has an unrelated college degree because she's a volunteer. She likely has a kid in the group. She's 40 to 50 years old on average, and likely a female. So there are males that do this, but in their experience, most of their customers in this persona are female, and their church attendance is below 250. And so then we also think about, okay, well, what does she care about? How far does she want to travel? Because these involve traveling. And then so she's looking for, she likes World Changers because it handles all the logistics for her. She can sign the kids up, get them to camp, and she doesn't have to worry about getting food for everybody or any of the things like that. So the reason I'm showing you this is, like, this is a fairly well-developed persona. This could be much more detailed, but for most purposes, this is going to help them get down the line of thinking through their marketing and how it's going to affect them. So think about, what media are they paying attention to? Vicky is definitely on Facebook, right? But Steve's small group and the other person in this group are probably more on Twitter because they like to get in theological fights on Twitter. And so they are, these customer personas can help you think through what platforms and also what do you need to talk about on digital marketing. So if you are talking to Vicky and Steve, those are going to affect the decisions of the content that you put out there. Now, you need to develop your own persona. And so I'm going to put one of my friends on for just a second. Sodium Halogen is another ATA partner of Family of Firms company, and they're also a deep-seated part of the co. And William and his team have developed Persona Genius. It's a free app on the App Store that it'll walk you through making personas on your own. And so this is a free resource by Sodium Halogen called Persona Genius. It would be worth, if you haven't done a persona exercise before, this would be worth your time as you think about who your customers are. Now, the other thing that we really want you to think about is inbound attention. So much like the 2016 musical hit film La La Land, starring dreamy Ryan Porter, Gosling, a plot that I contend was so-so, but the music was fabulous and the camera work was just amazing. Emma Stone asked the question in the second song is, are you ready to be found? And so inbound marketing, inbound attention asks the question, if one of your personas comes across you online, are you ready for that person to find you? Are you set up in a way that they're going to think this is a legitimate business? These are people I want to give my money to. Or are they going to go, let's pass and go to your competitor? So when you come to your website, go to your Facebook page, go to your Instagram account, whatever platforms you're on, and pretend that you are in that persona's mind and think, what would I be looking for? And what am I providing in this section? But then also, and this is where some of you will have a rude awakening, go to your competitors' Facebook pages and websites and Instagram's accounts and think about, from the perspective of Emma Stone in this case, are they more ready to be found than I am? Would I rather do business with them just based on this component than not? And so those are some really important opening thoughts that I would think any marketing agency that you would come in contact with would hopefully walk you through if they're of reputation. Now, the next part, we're going to kind of talk through. We're going to talk through individual some platforms and some tips on these platforms. This may not answer all of your questions. We'll have a question and answer time at the end, and I'll do my best to answer your specific questions. So we're going to walk through a couple of platforms and see how we go through that. And I'm not checking the chat for questions. I think Lisa will be. And so if you've got questions, drop them there and we'll come back to them. So we're going to start with Instagram to start with. Instagram is probably one of, I would say, I would probably rank it the top social media platform for general business as of activity right now. Facebook is still very prominent in our area, and so I wouldn't discount Facebook. Instagram still has growth potential. Facebook's kind of petered out on growth, and Twitter is really just a niche product. But if you're dealing with a certain type of customer, Twitter can be a very good platform. So Instagram, some quick tips on Instagram. Number one, complete your profile. Have a link in your bio, write your bio. Think about that from the perspective of the person that you want to be your customer. What do they care about? And this includes putting a link in your bio. Now, what you should know about links on Instagram, if you are not familiar, unless you have 10,000 followers or are doing paid advertising, the only place you get to have a link is in your bio. And so that is an important piece of real estate for your marketing activities. So what link do you want to have in your bio? Maybe it changes based on what you're doing. So later this summer, we're going to be doing some interesting marketing stuff for our company. And so as we start to promote that, we're going to change the link in our bio. Right now, the most recent thing that we've promoted is the book that that we're giving away today. And so we changed the link to reflect that. There's also services that allow you to do what is called a link tree. And so you can have a bunch of different links at one link. It's essentially a landing page. So if you have a website, you could make your own link tree and not pay for a link tree service. But you need to be able to make edits to your website and that kind of thing. And so link trees allow you to put up a bunch of links. So maybe it's like certain products that you offer, or a bio or a review site, different things that people might want to go to. But keep that updated, and even go as far as, so one of my goals in life is to always unload my brain, unload things from my brain as much as possible into a computer. So like reoccurring tasks, there is no reason for my brain to have to try to remember that I need to change the link in my Instagram bio when we're done promoting something. Because I'm going to make a task in my task manager or my reminders app on my phone to make that change. That's just how my brain works. And I imagine a lot of you probably have a hard time remembering little things like that. And so I try to offload as much of that as I can to a computer because we carry supercomputers around in our pockets. Why not make the best of it? So make notes to change those things over time. And then you need to be doing, make sure that your branding is adequate. You don't need to have an entire, like a motivational poster in your profile picture. Your profile picture should be the icon of your brand, if you have an icon for your brand, or your logo. So for example, Adelsberger Marketing, we just have our shield icon in our Instagram profile icon, because it's, you know what, where it's going to show up next to almost every single time, it's going to say Adelsberger Marketing right next to it. And so you don't need to overdo that. We had a customer who we recently brought on board that we were updating their social media, and they had this like almost a promotional image with their icon, with their image, really like a little bitty logo and this big promotional image as their profile picture. And so you couldn't make out what the icon was. It was too small to see. So you just need to have your icon, your logo on there. Make sure it's as clear as possible. Contrasting colors are good. And then the other really good place for branding on social media is, or Instagram, is the highlights for your stories. And so you have an opportunity to brand the highlights for your stories and think through what stories you want to have around for a long period of time. And so you can, some people use a solid color with a name, some people use an icon, but that is an opportunity for a branded piece of real estate in a platform that there's not necessarily a lot of consistent pieces of branding, because the images get pushed down, and the things that people are going to see at your profile are the top 6 images that are current, and the story highlights and the icon. Speaking of stories, you need to be making stories. And so stories are quick hit forms of content, short things that people can interact with, can watch. They don't have to be highly produced. They can be, but they don't have to be. It can be this morning I posted one of my setup for this phone call or for this Zoom call on my personal Instagram story. There is junk on the desk behind my computer. I accidentally left, like sometimes I squeeze one of these grippy things that was on the desk. I forgot that was on there. Not a big deal. It'll be gone in 24 hours, or I can make it part of my highlights and it'll stay around longer. But think less about production quality and think more about behind the scenes of what you're doing. Some of you do very labor intensive work, and you can show before and after very quickly, or sometimes you're going to see things that are like super gross, and people like to see things that are super gross for some reason. So those are things that you might be able to quickly feature on your stories. We do a lot of behind the scenes of our shoots. So when we're on location, we have the advantage of having a desk job, but then we also get to go into the world and do video shoots and things like that. And so we can capture those things. But with all the content on Instagram, think about, what does your customer want to see? And for some of you, maybe that's the latest special. Some of you, that is information that is helpful to them. Some of you, it's happy stories that are of people's lives being changed. For us, we have we get sometimes we get a cool factor of things that we get to do. There's an Instagram stories series that I think is hilarious, of me standing on things to film. And because if I'm on location somewhere, if I have the opportunity to go in a crane lift or stand on somewhere that I'm not supposed to stand on, I'm going to do it every single time. And our team noticed that, and so it became a thing. And so those are what is that your customers, what are those personas that you've just made? What do they think? What do they want to know about your business? So before we go to the next topic, Katie, who's getting the next book?
Nikki Gano.
Hey, how about that? Oh, I see you did text me, didn't you? Okay. I got the last one. Okay, I'll do the last one. I won't make you come back on. So Nikki, you can pick up that book at the Co. I imagine you've got some co-starter sessions left that you might be able to swing through there and get that. The next section we're going to talk about is LinkedIn. LinkedIn is so hot right now. And some of you seeing this graphic of a certain age know exactly the context of this movie. Is I loved Adam Sandler movies growing up. For the younger folks, this is probably a more relevant GIF of Will Smith from YouTube Rewind in 2019. But LinkedIn is really hot right now because of the organic reach is great. Facebook, if you all remember, 10 years ago, Facebook, if you posted something on Facebook, lots of people would see it. If you manage a business page at all, any of you, you know that number has dropped off. That for a while, Instagram was super hot with traffic, and that has dropped off. For a while, stories on Instagram were like magic, but now everybody's doing stories on Instagram, and so that's dropped off. That's organic reach, the amount of people that see your content without having to pay for people to see it. And in LinkedIn, for whatever reason, has decided we're going to be the hot organic platform right now. And so generally you can get good results from putting content on Instagram if it's decent, or on LinkedIn if it's decent content. I don't think their stories feature works super great yet, personally, in my experimentation, but general content can be very good on LinkedIn. And so if you have business to business, LinkedIn can be a great place to be right now. But please make sure that you have a reasonably professional profile picture. This is not a place for a thirst trap or a dating website. This is a professional profile picture for you to network. Like you're going to a networking event when you get on LinkedIn. So try to use a professional picture. And then something that I've been thinking more about lately is a clear or action-oriented title. And so yesterday I went through and here's some, hopefully you can read these. The first one, I don't know some of these people. Actually, most of these people I don't know. So if you do know them, please don't tell them I talked about them during this session. Gina Marie Gorando, her business title is Let Go, Let God. Now, I don't necessarily disagree with that from a theological perspective, but it tells me nothing about what her job is and how she could help me through networking on LinkedIn. And so that's not very good. Rob Jackson here, whoever that is, takes a pretty good stab at it, except that it's too long and I can't read the whole thing. I don't like that. And so helping others to engage and inspire to bring change through, well, I've already lost interest. Laura Boyer, who I also don't know, is a very good example here. She's the founder of Blackbean. I don't know what Blackbean is, but apparently it helps B2B industrial manufacturers get more leads. If I'm an industrial manufacturer, I know now that I want to talk to Laura. And I can spend more time learning about Laura and getting to know her and seeing what her content is. I have a similar setup for myself. So leading businesses to conquer digital marketing at Adelsberger Marketing. So if you have an interest in digital marketing or know you have a need in that, you might want to talk to me. And then the last guy is his name's Carl. Carl leads an industry group that I'm a part of for digital agencies, and his is building a bad A-word community of digital professionals. And so I apologize for the language if you have any children in the house. But and so if I didn't know Carl, and that was scrolling up past, I know that Carl's talking to me because I'm a digital professional, and he's building a community for these people. And I instantly know if I want to talk to Carl or not. And so can you create an action-oriented title, or can you work your positioning statement into it? There could be a whole workshop on positioning statements. And I'm not super great at it yet, but his is a vertical. Mine is a very horizontal positioning. So digital marketing applies to a lot of businesses. It's a horizontal niche positioning. Carl Smith is talking to digital professionals that he's building a community for. It's a very vertical niche. And so Gina Marie Guandaro doesn't have a niche at all. I can't tell what she does. And Rob Jackson, I can't tell what he does either because his title's too long. So if you can get your positioning statement, your job title into that short of a thing, you are going to be more attractive on LinkedIn than other people. Job titles are fine, but if your job title doesn't actually tell me what you do, so if you're a vice president somewhere or a director or a manager and you don't tell me of what or what you do, it's not helpful for me. Unless your company is like Google, then that's impressive. So think about how you can make your job title better. And then video is really, LinkedIn's really leaning into video. And so for organic reach, video can be very powerful and help you to see more of that, more traffic. All right. The next one we're going to talk about is Google My Business and Google in general. If you have been paying attention to co-events in the last 2 years, 3 years, you have heard about Google My Business. So if you've heard about this a billion times, I apologize, but it's super important. You need to go claim your business on Google. Why? You may ask, why, Kevin, should I do this? Because I haven't been to any of the previous chamber or co-trainings. Well, one, SEO value. You are able to give a signal to Google that you are a reputable business and they like that. And so they'll help surface your results better. You can also get notifications when people leave you a bad review. People leave bad reviews on the internet, and it's nice to know when it happens so that you can address it. We had an incident where someone quite aggressively came at one of our customers and with what looked like fake accounts, and we were able to get one of those removed. So there's still some there, but we were able to get one of them removed. And comments are very hard to remove and likely are not going to be able to be removed. But sometimes if you can point something out to Google, they might be able to do that. But you can also respond. And so if people get to the point where they're reading reviews, they can see that you had a reasonable response, which is a good practice. If your hours change, or, let's just say something crazy happened and everybody had to go remote and you had to tell people that you had curbside pickup. I don't know if that would ever happen or anything. Having access to your Google My Business account can allow you to make those changes where people are likely going to find you. And then you also get to choose the pictures that show up. So if there's anybody associated with Sunoco Products or Barker Robert on this call, I apologize. But like when people look up Sunoco Products in Jackson, this is the picture that people see. That's not what I would want to be found for my company. I don't know. I mean, if that speaks to someone in the chat, feel free to tell us that. But and then Barker Robert, they don't care at all. And they've got a censored Google image as the main picture that shows up for their location. If you have control of your Google account, you can pick what picture shows up, which is a nice thing to be able to do. Because if you are ready to be found, I would say neither of these groups are ready to be found on Google searches. And Sunoco probably doesn't care, but I bet Barker Robert might care if he put some time into thinking about it. Once again, please don't tell Sunoco or Barker Robert that I talked about them in this presentation. The next thing about Google is if you've got, and I'm going into Google broadly here, is Google Analytics. You need to have that set up on your website. It helps you to see where your traffic is coming from, where your traffic is going. You might be able to see that you have a huge audience in another state, and that's maybe something to help you think through for future development. Or you might be able to see that 70% of your traffic dies off the homepage. Well, why is that? It helps you think through some things that help you make better decisions about how your website is set up. And then you can also set conversion goals. So if you have a digital goal, like set up a contact form or to complete a contact form or to download a guide or something, you can use Google Analytics to track that, to see where traffic is coming from, to see where your best sources of traffic are. And then Google Search Console used to be known as Webmaster Tools, is another free tool from Google that will evaluate your website and let you know if you have any major SEO problems. It helps you optimize it. So things that you might be missing, like there's a page that links to a dead link, happens to people on a regular basis. And Search Console will help point that out to you. Before we get into talking about websites more, we have one more prize. Rhonda Morris, you have a free book at the Co waiting for you. And if any of you read it, it's helpful, let me know that it was helpful. And if it sucks, just don't tell me. Thank you. All right. So the last segment that we'll talk about with some checklists for ourselves is our websites. Your website should have 3 things for sure. A clear value proposition. Why do you do what you do and why is it valuable? So Adelsberger Marketing, we lead businesses to conquer digital marketing. Now, we don't explicitly say all those things, but I know enough business owners that have no idea what to do when they come to digital marketing, that it's scary to them, or it's something they feel like they're not equipped to handle. And so we help them conquer that fear, and we help them conquer those projects. David C. Baker, who is a expert in the digital marketing agency space, says he's the leading authority on positioning, reinventing, and selling firms in the creative and digital space. I feel like I know what he does after reading that statement. One we've written recently for someone is, we turn human resources into human capital. Because Nicole Newman, please don't write on my slides. I saw that. She's great, by the way. So we turn human resources into human capital. Human resources is generally viewed as a problem. Has anybody had a good interaction with a human resources person? Once again, if you're a human resources person on this call, I apologize. But I have a lifelong vendetta against HR managers because of something that happened to me in a previous career. But human capital has a good ring to it. And so human resources into human capital paints a picture of how they help you. And then if you can fit positioning things into your statement, into your proposition. And so like David C. Baker says, selling firms in creative and digital space. He could be doing the leading authority on positioning, reinventing, selling for anybody. It'd be very broad. And he's saying for creative and digital space, which narrows it down considerably, that positions him to work with certain people. And so some industries are very positioned, like specialty lawyers are, you might be a business law, or someone who specializes in the buying and selling of medical practices, or someone who does insurance defense. Those are very specific positioning. So if you can work out positioning in your business, in some businesses, it does not apply. It's a horizontal positioning. But if you can fit in horizontal and vertical and find that little square that you do best in, there are advantages for that. The second thing a website absolutely needs to have is a clear call to action. People are dumb and people are lazy. And so you need to make it very clear what you want them to do when they come to your website. And so if it's to contact you, if it's to buy this book, if it's to set up a meeting, if it's to download this form, anything in that nature, you need to make it very clear and very obvious what you want them to do. On our website, we actually have 2 call to actions that are very prominent, because our service that people buy from us is a big expense. Like Lisa Garner, who's a fabulous entrepreneur that has introduced us today, you can walk in and out of the Garner Blue shop and spend $20 or $30 and get something. You can also spend a lot more because she has some fabulous stuff. But you can't walk into Adelsberger Marketing and get in and out for $30. At least I'm trying to prevent that from happening. And so the purchase is very big. And so we want to make it as easy for people to do business with as possible, and as comfortable for them to do business with us as possible. And so we have put out a freebie, which is something that you should think about for your website. We have a freebie or a lead generator or an offer. Those are all kind of similar type of things where you can download our digital marketing checklist for free, because that's going to make you a little bit more comfortable with us when we say, okay, you want to work with us, it's going to cost you da-na-na to da-na-na, right? And that number is going to be a little less scary if you think we're experts at what we're doing. And so if you can offer a freebie on your website that gets people on your email list, that's a great move, because you own email lists and you don't own Facebook. And so think about a freebie or something in our checklist. is something that needs a refresh. Getting ready for this, I was like, oh, our checklist needs a refresh. So in 2022, because we're planning that far ahead at this point, we're going to refresh our checklist and update it to be more and more effective. So the most important thing about any of these things is that you start. Many of you will take this information and you'll leave it in a notebook and you will never do anything with it. That is the most frustrating thing about giving these talks, is that many people don't implement anything. And so if you just start doing something, you're going to be better off than if you didn't do anything, likely, unless you do something like post an anti-Semitic tweet or something. Like, that's going to be a problem for you. But if you are earnestly trying to promote your business, a little bit is better than nothing. So you can download the free checklist. I'll put it in the comments at bit.ly/am checklist, or just go to our website. And then you can read the book. We're releasing it chapter by or section by section, and you can get that free emailed to you. It's also available on Amazon, but I would probably just read it for free online if I were you. So that is my general thing. So we've got a couple minutes for question and answers, right, Lisa? Oh, Lisa, your connection is not great. I think your internet connection's not very strong there, Lisa. Katie, can you take the questions?
Sure. Hope Cooper said, are you seeing much benefit for using Snapchat for business?
It depends on who your audience is, right? So if your audience is active on Snapchat, there's a case for that. Then you also have to think about who you are. So does, in your case, Hope, does CSA, who mostly works with utility companies, does Snapchat meet their personality? Probably not. And so I don't know that that's where I would be investing my time. Of course, LinkedIn is probably going to be a gold mine, I would think, for that audience. And so ultimately the question goes back to who you are and what your personality is and what your brand's personality is. And how does that mesh with who your customers are and where they're spending their time online?
Does AdWords help you get more traffic?
Yeah. Oh, AdWords is great. One of the reasons, so what she's asking about is Google AdWords. It's their ad product. It's where Google makes most of their money, actually. So when you search for something on Google and you're like, I don't know, indigo blue stuff, and you're going to get ads up for things that aren't Lisa, and then the first organic research result will be Lisa. Those ads take people that are searching for things. And the reason I like that is because it's based on search intent. Most digital marketing is based on demographics. So Kevin is a 32-year-old male, seems like he has children, probably owns a house. Let's run ads to him there. Or he looked at stuff about pools online, and so let's send him pool advertisements. Whereas with Google AdWords, you are more like Kevin is Googling cool lighting fixtures for pool. And then you can have ads that show up for that if you sell lighting fixtures for pools, right? So it's search intent based. And so it's very expensive. Depending on your industry, it can be very expensive. Like I have some customers that are in the $1 a click range, and we've had some that have been in the $45 per click range. But some of those people also have very high return, like very high customer lifetime values. And so thinking about who their customer is and how much their customer is worth, they see that it's worth to do that.
Great. Do we have any more questions? I think Hope Cooper said, are you doing much with geofencing?
We not geofencing in the way that you mean it. what I assume hope is meaning in this instance is, you get in the weather app on your phone and you see an ad for McDonald's when you're at a Burger King. We don't play with those types of ads a whole lot because in our view, generally banner ads are things that nobody likes. And so we avoid using them whenever possible. And most of those geofenced ads are based on banner ad technology. And also know that with iOS 14 that's coming out anytime now, or 14.5, whatever the actual name of it is, there is a lot of changes coming to the way people are tracked. I think it's 14.5, to the way people are tracked through their phones. And Apple is putting a stake in the ground and say, we are the privacy cell phone company. And what that means is a lot of apps that have made their money on advertisement in the past through selling things like geofence ads are no longer going to be able to do that in an economically viable way. Now, the dirty half of that is that Apple's doing that, and there's some self-interest there, because if you can't sell enough advertising to make your app workable, you're going to have to sell your app. And you know who makes money when people buy apps? App Store. Apple does. And so so that is one of the things that people should be aware of, that there's some major changes. And I don't know that anybody has the complete nail down on exactly what those consequences are going to be yet. And so it's going to be interesting to see how that affects people who sell geofencing and some of the retargeting options that have been very popular to be used in digital marketing in the last 5 years, 10 years.
That was good info. Can you guys hear me now by any chance?
A little bit better.
Okay,
Yeah.
that was great. Kevin, you know so much about things like geofencing. I didn't know much about geofencing. Thank you so much. Rhonda has a question about programs like Hootsuite, Later, Canva's doing this now. Basically, these platforms that are offering for you to schedule and then potentially post to like multiple platforms. What are your thoughts on those?
Yeah. Facebook has a native tool for Facebook and Instagram now. And Twitter for a while had stopped allowing people to use a third-party tool because there were so many bots. Anytime you're working with something outside of the platform itself, you run the risk of it getting shut down for some reason. You know, if they violate the terms of service and Twitter gets mad at them because they're selling their data to Cambridge Analytica or something like that, they can kick you off and you could stop having that service. Not the end of the world. There is some concern for outside platforms and the hit to organic reach, but you know, the organic reach on most platforms has dropped off anyway, and so there's probably not a lot of difference. And so, you know, and the biggest problem that you have with this is people will post the same content over multiple locations and not customize that content to work good on different platforms. And so if you think through Instagram and then you post the exact same thing to Facebook, it's not going to work right, because, you know, like Instagram, hashtags actually work on Instagram. Hashtags don't really work on Facebook. And so people are going to know, I noticed, maybe I just noticed because this is what I think about all the time, but like, make your content work really good on the platform that you're wanting it to be on. And that's harder to do with one of those multiple platform scheduling tools.
Awesome. Any other questions?
Did everybody who's getting a book know where they?
Oh, yeah, that was.
Did everybody who's getting a book know what they're doing, that they got it? I hope they will come to the Co and get that.
I think so. Oh, wait, Will's put in a question. For Google My Business, he's still showing that his profile is only 85% complete. So he's got a logo, cover page, and info. What is missing?
There's a lot of things you can put into Google My Business, like a description, a story. You can put your other social media accounts on there. Like, it's hard to know from this perspective, Will, but I'm sure there's a lot of little details that you can put in there. You can even put things like a Black-owned business. You can put that on there, and Google will help that surface for certain situations as well. So there's a lot of details for Google My Business.
Yes, So true. All right. Thank you so much, Kevin. This was great information.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. I have just a couple of things to mention before we head off. This is going to be recorded. Or this was recorded. So you'll be able to rewatch it, because you're going to need to rewatch it, or more likely share it with someone who you think this was could be beneficial for. So if you learn some stuff and you just want to share it with somebody, this will be on the CO's and the Chamber's Facebook pages in our saved videos pretty soon. We have 2 events that I wanted to highlight. I know we mentioned some of those at the beginning. The Chamber's Capital Talk event is coming up tomorrow morning. There are spots available for that. That's a town hall meeting featuring state legislators. And then the CO is offering a program. It's a new program. It's called Entrepreneurship Through Acquisition. And it's actually focused on those who, aren't necessarily starting their own business, but they're looking to get into entrepreneurship by purchasing an existing business. And it kind of works with industry experts. And it's actually a partner program that we're doing with Pathway Lending. It starts April 29th, and it's a 4-part series. So head to the CO's website to learn more about that. And I think Katie is actually putting links for both of these into the chat. So if you're interested, you can go ahead and do those there. Thank you again to Bancorp South for sponsoring this event. And look for our May Spark. I believe we've decided on May 20th, Ben Ferguson, President of Personnel Placements, will be speaking to us about hiring. So that will be a great event as well. Thank you again for all of you that took time out of your day. I hope this was beneficial for you, and have a great rest of your Thursday.